essentially, for me, what's most important is an investigation of the human body. You know, I've always been fascinated by this technologically literate thing that we have, and how we might be able to test it, provoke it, use it, express with it in a whole range of dimensions. And one of my great passions has obviously been doing that on stage, and doing that on stage with lots of other people, so collaborative input that change the way in which you think about the nature of that body. But fundamentally, it's about where is the body in relationship to these other things. As a choreographer, I've always thought that dance isn't only about the work that you make on a stage, but it's any work that you make which in a way has a kind of an intentional organization. And that intentional organization is about the connection of body, time and space. And so it can be expressed in lots of domains. And we've done lots of kind of installation-based work that does that. But one of the phenomenal things about the exhibition is that we've been able to bring all of those things together as a consolidated piece of work where the audience can actually walk through that work and be a participant in the work themselves. Because it's like you have, you know, front row seat for every single dance installation, the, you know, choreographic installation that we have made. And we need you as a recursive partner in that expression of the work. There's always been an endeavor in humankind to look in the interior in some kind of way to understand self. And we've done that always with new technologies in some form or another. It's amazing now that we have, you know, imaging and scanning, all sorts of ways of seeing inside. And I think as a dance artist or as a body artist, I've been as much interested in what's on the outside as what's going on in the inside. It really surprised me, for example, the first time that I had my heart scanned. We all have a picture of a heart. We kind of know what it looks like. We know the iconographic picture of a heart. But I hadn't realized that my heart was really long. Like, it was a really long thing. So the whole visual picture I had of the human heart, and especially my heart, was completely changed through the imaging process. And that's what I mean about technology being able to inspire you creatively. I mean, that's a simple version of that, but to actually help you build an imaginative landscape which is more accurate, or give you access to information and data sets that actually you'd never been able to access before. These ideas are happening everywhere, and they're all sustaining the wider picture. And I can do that because centrally all the time the conversation is around the body. You know, I was one of the first generations to have computers at home. And I do think that is quite influential because it becomes a natural extension of you. I've actually still got my first computers in their box, like pristine. It's really interesting, that relationship between technology and the body and how that's unfolded over time and how we might be able to interrogate it. And that did really start from, you know, those early days on a computer where I was putting in code and nothing much would happen and it would all go wrong, or I was playing, you know, early kind of computer games. Just understanding this transaction of information from a human body into a different form, i.e. maths. So much of our world, our life, is experienced through screens which are essentially two-dimensional. Our sense of self is a two-dimensional self. In a dance studio, dancers are looking at a two-dimensional version of themselves, but always asked to work three-dimensionally. You know, we did the very first bi-directional performances between countries live on the internet. This is in the 90s, way before Skype, where the computers are as big as this room. It wasn't really about using the technology, it was how I could extend the possibility of working with others far away from me. And even in that experiment in the 90s, it was interesting that the audiences were watching all of this live, and the question and answers afterwards, they would say, yeah, this would be amazing if this were live. They couldn't get their head around the fact that this was operating in real time. What would be a better communicative system where you get a fuller sense of a human body, where that physical signature is relatable? Will we be able to communicate better in that medium? What will that look like? What will that look like if that were 3D? I mean, some of those early conversations are actually how we've ended up with a piece of work that we're working on now called On the Other Earth, which looks at how is it that you can really develop clear human presence, where you believe that they're really there, and where you can really access the cues that you would normally do in human conversation. You've heard of this concept in technology of the uncanny valley, where you don't really believe that it's a person for whatever reason, And it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge in CGI. It's a big challenge in movies at Avatar-led. And I thought, gosh, if we could crack that challenge, that would be really, really exciting. We've used all sorts of kind of evolutionary systems, AI systems, generative systems, so it unfolds and transforms into a range of infinite bodies, a body that you would never see on repeat. I think it's partly this aspiration to capture in some way what it means to sense someone. What is the artistic expression of that, where you can let other people feel that? So one of the wonderful things about Future Self for me is, it's this huge tower of LED lights, which is actually extraordinary. But it's got a capture system. It's got 2 cameras that take an image, a real-time image of people moving either side of this object. And what happens is their mass, their information, is collated into a body in this light object. And as they move together between one another, this body, this future self, is created. So they're using very prosaic tools. They're using their orientation, how they move, their proximity and distance from the lights to be able to construct this 3-dimensional body. I call it an instrument, really. You start to learn how to play the instrument through your body, through your physical intelligence. There will always be the really exciting moment where the linearity of machine, the kind of the coldness of machine, will interface with the messiness of creature, and I think that's really extraordinary. Again, it's just how is it that in a very simple way, our physicality can change the way in which a digital environment works and bring us closer to the essence of what it is like to experience real dancers in real time.